Welcome to RISKSA TV. This is day 2 of the Momentum Risk Summit 2015 in Sun City. I'm joined now by Chatell Ilbury, well-known South African scenario planner. Chantel's just been sharing insights on scenarios for South Africa and the future and how challenging it is now to predict the future. Chantel, thank you for joining us. What are some of the big trends that are making the future harder and harder to predict?
Thank you for having me. I think some of the trends are things like globalization. Now, we've had globalization sort of 1.0, and I think we're moving into 2.0 now, so it's a slightly different shift in terms of globalization, where there really is an economic shift towards the east, which is changing trade. Barriers to trade are coming up, falling down. It's a more complex investment environment, I think. I think individualization is another trend. So the consumer or the client or the customer actually has a voice, and that voice is saying, you know, I'm educated, I've got some knowledge, and they're asking questions, they want to diversify. I think another trend is digitalization, and digitalization is going to bring a whole new set of technologies, social media, the way we engage. If you think about young people, we've got a whole generation that's almost going to come into its own as new clients that have grown up only with social media and with technology. So I think that's a key trend. I would say climate change, if I took it a little bit further. Climate change is a trend that is starting to play out, that's going to change some of our policies, the way we do things, and I think it's going to play again into some of our investment choices, new businesses, changes there. And probably technology convergence and nanotechnology and what that's going to do. So you connect all of those dots, and you've got quite an uncertain environment as to how they're all going to interplay and how you need to reposition yourself in terms of your products and really even in leadership. Demographics, is the last mega trend that I would say is really changing. Retirement age is coming out. We've got younger populations coming into the workforce, older people still in the workforce. So I think we're seeing a lot of trends with demographics too.
So when it comes to predicting the future, what are some of the key flags now, particularly for those within the financial services world, to watch, and what are the likely outcomes?
Okay, I think there are flags, if we were to talk globally in terms of flags, again, one would be looking at things like how Russia is being very assertive and how it's playing out and what's going to shift there. If we were to look closer to home, we would be looking at some of the flags that are showing up in the South African environment, and there are a number of risks that are coming into play. One of the latest risk reports says corruption in South Africa is the #1 risk, and I suppose a red flag there would be centralization of state. If we were to move more and more towards centralization of state, would definitely be a key flag for. Infrastructure is another flag that's showing up. So there are a number of things that you could pull out that would directly or indirectly affect the financial services industry.
Financial advisors and intermediary professionals spend their lives advising clients on how to best prepare for their own futures. How can intermediaries use scenario planning and scenario thinking to improve their own advice?
Okay, well, I'd take that from 2 angles. I think they, #1, would also have to say what sort of scenarios around their own future, because I think the nature of advice is changing. So if you look at advice into the future, you would certainly be working with a far more engaged client than you were in the past. I think in the past, advisors worked with far more passive clients, and they could then link their products to client needs. Whereas now, with risk profiling, customer segmentation, it's a far more engaged client. And so they will have to be far more innovative in terms of their own approach to advice. And then how would they use it with their clients? I think it really would be understanding the client, deeply understanding the client's needs, and then being able to say, let's work through a set of scenarios around some of those concerns so that one can get to a comfortable decision through those scenarios. So they could use it across, all of their client needs and concerns.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us, Chantel.